Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Reconnection space. This is the space we come to talk all things reconnection with ourselves, with other people, with relationships, with the world around us, with the universe, if that's what we choose. It's all about getting reconnected. And I go around and I ask people kindly, or I badger them sometimes, to tell me their reconnection moment, that moment in their life that created a change for them and maybe put them on a new path or got them to see things differently. And my wonderful guest with me this morning, up in not very snowy, I understand, Yorkshire, is Jo Outram. Welcome, Jo.
Oh, thank you for interviewing me.
You're very welcome. So we were just saying before I went on camera that it's a little bit weird because I contributed to a fabulous project that Jo helped pull together called Inspirational, Fabulous and Over 40, where we wrote our life stories. So I guess I shared my reconnection moments with Jo. I'd never written my story before, sent it off to Jo, shared it with a load of women I'd never met, and got to read their stories as well, but we'd never even had a coffee. So this is almost like flipping it over, isn't it?
Definitely.
Okay, so Jo, tell our viewers a little bit about who you are and what you're doing.
Oh, hi. Well, as you said, my name's Jo, Jo Outram. I've kind of flipped my business around a little bit, so that now I'm working with women in business predominantly, just looking at them, helping them get to grips with all their money, whether it's their anxiety over money and the mindset, as well as learning the practical stuff which goes alongside of that. So kind of bringing in all my years of experience.
I think that's wonderful because I know for me, going into business myself, there was not just the thing that people think about, which is will I make enough money from my business to make a wage? But there was a whole thing about, was I prepared for a while to be financially dependent again on somebody else? And what did that mean to me in terms of my role? And if my business isn't successful, what is success? Is it about me having to earn lots of money, or is it about the work that I do in my business? And so I think women think about money in a different way, don't they?
Yeah, we do, and that's why I concentrate on dealing with women, because we've got a totally different outlook on things. Because like for a man, that would have been very much black and white.
Yeah.
Predominantly. I know we're not all the same.
No,
but for women, like you just said there, we've got a whole host of other things stepped behind that money question that we need to explore and get to grips with. So yeah.
So we'll be sharing later how you can get in touch with Jo, and at the end of the video, if you look underneath, then there'll be lots of links to help you find where Jo is. But Jo, you have agreed to share, and I don't know what it is. I love it when I don't know what it is. You have agreed to share your reconnection moment. So tell us about that moment in your life that's really stuck with you.
Well, it's more than a little bit of a moment for me. I think the moment for me is classified over a space of a couple of months.
Yeah.
As you go through, and sometimes I think things in your mind take a little bit of time to explore. But I got to a position. I wasn't happy in my career. I was going off in all different directions, which actually were great, but weren't really helping fulfill what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it's all I'd done for years and years. So it's you carry on plodding, and I think it got to the stage where the universe was kind of giving me obstacles to try to say, look, this is not what you want in life. You need to have a redirection.
Yeah.
And through all this time, I'd ignored my own personal finances. Now, as a bit of a background, I am a chartered accountant. I've qualified as an independent financial advisor. So you think I would know a little bit about keeping your finances in order. And I'm great at keeping everybody else's in order, but I'd neglected mine. And I think for me, that came as like the final moment, so to speak, is when I'd hit rock bottom financially.
Right.
Because that made me completely rethink, so if it was one moment, I think it was that moment, not when actually I found out that my house was being repossessed.
Wow.
But it was having to go back and stand on mum and dad's doorstep and say, I want a bed.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, and from going from earning over 100k, you know, large 6-bed house, sports car, in a matter of probably about 18 months. I mean, there were other factors. I mean, there was stuff going wrong in our business. A business partner had taken loads of money, you know, 20,000 out of the business, which had left obviously a huge cash flow.
Yeah.
And it was down to cash flow. I couldn't earn it quick enough to pay off the debts, which a lot of people are in. And for me, that was a huge smack in the face of, you need to reevaluate everything that you're doing in life, you know. And looking back from that moment over the next few months, I realised that there would be so many things that the universe had kind of thrown at me to say, you need to move direction, this is not right for you. But I just ploughed through, and I think as women we do.
Yes, you do.
We just plough through, think, oh, you know, it's just another bump in the road, you know, things that had gone wrong. You know, I'd had an acquisition at work that had gone terribly wrong, and the legal stuff wasn't protecting me, and it should have, you know, a whole host of things. And of course we had the property crash, all of which didn't help.
Yes.
But there was also, I can't blame all of those things, because if I'd have been sound with how I thought about my money and applied the practical skills, which I would have done, which I had, then I wouldn't have been in, you know, I might have been not been in that position, or not been in it, you know, so severely. And it was a career, it just seemed like just the world kind of stopped for a little bit.
Because you keep, like you said, you keep going.
Reevaluate.
Yeah, you keep going and you keep going, don't you? And you just think, I'm going to keep everyone else going as well, you know, and this, I will come through this. And it's so hard to have that moment where you suddenly stop and realise this is it.
Yeah, I've got to pay attention now. I can't ignore all the signs, because it got that serious. And yeah, so then that kind of made me realise that, you know, something needed to change, and that's why I really needed to start to reconnect, that, you know, start that process of reconnecting to who I was and what did I actually want to do and be, and who was I, and just kind of brought a whole host of questions just tumbling down. Just that, you know, that defining moment, I think. Yeah.
So you got to that moment, and you had to, you know, there's a wonderful saying that you know, I love, which is, if you don't listen to the sand, and you don't listen to the pebbles, and you don't listen to the rocks, then the boulder comes and hits you upside the head, you know. And then you're suddenly like, oh, now I have to listen.
It was
what helped you sort of then get yourself back and you know, to be where you are now?
I think because I was trained financially, and that's what hit me obviously the hardest, because I think that was the one thing that really was going to make me sit up and listen and say that something needs to be done, because for me it impacted on what I did as a living. Because then I felt, well, how can I help other people? Then I was working accounts of, you know, finances. How can I help other people if I can't get my own house in order? And I think the humiliation that I felt, or probably other people probably didn't know or didn't care. But for me personally, it was like, this kind of felt like almost, you know, like a personal attack. So I think that's what made me think, well, I've got to do something now. So at that point, that's when I really started looking into things like the law of attraction and things like that, because I started delving into, well, with my character, it's not like, well, it's gone wrong, let me fix it, because I could do the fixing on automatic. Because the skills that I'd actually got them, I just hadn't been applying them. So on the technical side, I was okay, but for me it was like, I really want to know why this has happened, and how can I stop it ever happening again. And that's how I got to think, well, it's how I kind of thought about money and thought about things like success. There are a whole host of things other than just, you know, that nucleus of money. So it was that real, I want to understand why it happened. That kind of,
that's the reconnection, isn't it? And, you know, the kind of the message is that moment where that boulder hits, you know. You've got to sit back. Then you had that real kind of impact, because it was almost as though, well, this is what I'm trained to do, so how could this possibly happen to me, because this is my field. And then it's the, well, how, but why did this, you know, and to understand the why and allow yourself to kind of explore that is so important.
Yeah, and it was a long journey. I think it did. I mean, it took me 2 to 3 years to pay off all my debts because I was determined I wasn't going bankrupt.
Yeah.
Although I have to say, you know, I don't want to sound like, you know, for anybody that's listening, or, you know, that bankruptcy is not a way forward, because it is for some people.
Yes.
And some situations you won't be able to trade out of it. My circumstances, I could have gone bankrupt at that point in time, but I knew if I could keep going, I've got other things where I couldn't get access to the money that I would later on. And actually, it was really weird, because it was within a month of clearing all my debts that I managed to sell my shares in a company that got overseas. It'd taken them 3 years to sort this sale out. I literally got the money the month after I cleared all my debts. Now, had I had that money in the first place on day one, I wouldn't have been in a financial mess. So,
but then you wouldn't have gone through that journey, would you? Yeah.
Exactly.
So you know, that was the easy route, which would have been lovely. You know, no one's saying it wouldn't have been, but where would you have been now?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have. You know, if I'd gone down that route, I wouldn't have explored as much. I don't think, how I thought about money, because obviously I was determined that I had to pay. I had to pay it off, so I had to reevaluate everything in my life to how much I was spending, and it was phenomenal, the amount that I used to spend. And that's the crazy thing, that I'm seeing that so much now. There's so many women that are successful in the business, and they're earning over that 100K or whatever, but still don't have a grip on what having that money means. And
so
it was definitely, I was in that situation. And like you said, I had to go through that journey.
Yes.
I think. And like I said, it took 2 to 3 years. It's not an overnight fix. It's like, if you put 3 stone on your weight, you're not going to lose it overnight. It's the same kind of scenario.
But also, I do think, not that I think everyone should go through something that's traumatic, but I do think that for many of us who've set up a business following something, it's that drives us. And again, I think with women, we empathise, you know, we empathise with each other, and we look for that connection. So because you've been through that whole journey, and you've been in that very successful mindset, and then you've been in that, oh my God, how did this happen mindset, and then you've had to do that reevaluation of it. When you're talking to women about their experience of money, it's like you've got a 360 view of it, isn't it? It's like, you know, you're not always going to bring your experience into it, but people like to connect with people who can understand. And if you've never had a problem with money, and they're really struggling and they're anxious about it, and you know that it can be harder for them to open up.
So, I mean, I certainly found it hard to open up. Like I say, I mean, obviously it took the boldest for me to actually, you know, wake up and pay attention. But even then, I suppose I was quite lucky that I could solve a lot of it myself, rather than going to somebody. But I know it's that humiliation of telling somebody. I mean, I can say it now, but you know, this is 7-8 years ago that it happened. It's taken till now, and like you said, we know we're both on the book Inspirational Fabulous and Over 40. It's that kind of, it's taken that length of time for me really to say all of the story. You know, people have heard bits as we've gone through time, but I think it's that humiliation of saying, putting your hands up, and I see that with plenty of women as well. It's because we're not trained to talk about money.
No, we're not.
Especially us Brits. No, it's not the done thing. No.
Not the done thing, no.
Well, it's crazy.
Thank you so much for sharing that reconnection story, and you know, for being honest about that. How can people get in touch with you? What's the best way to find out about you?
Probably connection through Facebook's probably the most common one, or I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. So I'm usually in there at least once a day in all those platforms. So,
Lovely.
like I say, you're going to put those connection details in there.
We are indeed. Thank you so much. So my final question, as always, to everybody to round off the interview is to summarise, what does reconnection mean for you?
I think it's about finding your true purpose.
Nice.
I think there's so many of us that have got lost on the way, and that we need to find what it is that we're really here to do and share and experience.
Wonderful. True purpose. I really like that one. Thank you. Well, we hope you've enjoyed another episode of the Reconnection Space. As always, please click like, leave a comment, but most importantly, click that important subscribe button, because that helps us see that we're growing our viewers. It allows us to do so much more on the platform, the more viewers that we have. And of course, if you put your notifications on, you will never miss an episode of the Reconnection Space. And 2019, we have some amazing guests lined up. We've got more ladies from Inspirational, Fabulous and Over 40 coming up, as well as some other wonderful guests. And if you have a story that you would want to share and talk through that you think would support someone else, then drop us a note, because we're always looking for new people. And we wish you a most wonderful week, and we'll see you again very soon here on the Reconnection Space. Thank you again, Jo, for being our guest today.
Thanks for the invite.
Bye-bye.